All right. So today we have Len Hennessy and Kathy Simmons, and we want to thank you guys here at ELIME, which Kathy, you are a member of ELIME. But today in specific, we're going to talk about Intrusion, which is a film that you all worked on a few years ago. We're going to dig a little bit deeper in the behind the scenes of that, how it got started, each of your roles. So I'm excited. So, can you each kind of tell me like your roles in Intrusion and how it came about?
Okay, well, I'll start. Eli, the other team member, wrote a script called Intrusion, and he shared it with me. And at the same time, we were attending Southeastern filmmaker meetings in Augusta. And there we met Michael Hennessy. And Eli approached him to see if he would be interested in working with us on the film. So for nearly a year, we met with Michael, doing transcript revisions, doing storyboards, animatics. Michael was a wonderful help, and for me in particular, teaching me about film. And as we approached the time to start filming, Michael needed to step back. But luckily for us, at the same time, his brother, Len, was making a transition from California to Augusta. And I believe Michael showed Len the project and said, you might be interested in this. And Len said, yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
So Lynn, can you kind of continue that and go ahead and tell us how you got into this even more from your perspective?
I had come back from California, I think over the Thanksgiving holiday, and I was starting to look for houses and that sort of stuff. And my brother phoned me up and said, "Hey, are you interested in doing this?" And I was in the process of moving and that sort of stuff, and I was like, man, this sounds really cool. Let's give it a shot. And it was I'd been involved in short films as an actor, and I had learned something of the craft over the previous, like 3 years or so. I had another career entirely before that. Prior to 2015, I was actually in the military for a career, and so I was still kind of like, fairly new to the idea of doing anything beyond acting, and writing. And I'd been involved in screenwriting and that sort of stuff, and just like screenplay analysis and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And when I got here and whatnot, he just suggested this, and I was like, okay, a lot of the work's pretty much complete, and hey, let's go for it. So I was just fortunate, I think, with Eli and Kathy to give me the open arms and say, hey, come on over, and they were willing to put up with me, I guess, and my fumbling towards trying to figure things out on a daily basis, and especially with the crew and like Taggart and Willie and the other guys that were involved, really just kind of, I think, I could see them from time to time, like, God, this guy doesn't really know what he's doing, but he's figuring it out, and hopefully I was able to pick up speed as I went along. So,
yeah, no, it was a really good film. I think you all did really well with it. When I watched it, I was like drawn to the whole thing, every minute and second of it, and you can tell that there was like really good energy put into it. So, you guys did wonderful. But with you like becoming that director, did you have like any goals in mind as a director, or like do you have like any goals in the future now, like directing that?
Certainly. I think at the time it was kind of get through every shoot day with as few mistakes as possible. For me, that was my just get through it and learn as much as I could. But in kind of reading it, one thing when I first read it, and then I read through the script a couple of different times, and one of the things that occurred to me was that as a main protagonist, the character of Louis, really kind of, to me, it kind of transcended any, it kind of transcended any, it was a kind of universal protagonist. Yeah. I felt like here's a person who's trying to defend his home. Here's a person who's just trying to, kind of hold his own space in the universe and keep out the negative energy and also the people who are trying to actually hurt him and his family. And that's a very relatable character, and I really like that, and that appealed to me right away. So
Okay.
I wanted that to really come through. So
Yeah, no, I think it really did. It really did. It really did. So, Kathy, can you tell me your whole opinion on because I know you've already seen it. So, what did you think of the final outcome, Kathy?
I was very, very happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so different having worked behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
and watching a product than it is just, watching it. As many making of I've watched with films, it's still different when you're that person. And so when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, I remember that day. Or I remember how
Yeah.
hard Eli and I worked at the pharmacy,
Mm-hmm.
like for 2 days, getting that place ready to go. And I was very pleased with the outcome. And I think it told the story that, as Len said, this protagonist who was trying to, yes, protect his family at the same time he wanted to break out. He wanted to break away, but
Mm-hmm.
he was kind of stuck taking care of his mom. And I thought that came through really, really well.
Yeah, yeah. And like what you said about like the behind the scenes creatives, I feel like it's like a lot more personal and beautiful once you actually watch everything, just knowing that been to some of the locations and you saw it all like just come into fruition. So I think that's always pretty cool.
Very,
Um,
very.
can I jump in on that just real quick,
yeah,
because
for sure, for sure.
that is such a good point. The It's so interesting to go and, as you say, to kind of see the process from, okay, this is all the words on the page, and then you go to the different
Mm-hmm.
locations, and it's like, okay, how is this going to work? And think about the shots and that sort of stuff, the setup. It's like, what do we have in terms of props or anything that the characters are going to use, and the wardrobe and that sort of thing, and where are we going to shoot in the direction from? Which direction is the car going to come from? And then you kind of end up with this kind of unconnected bits of information that are captured in video, and then you kind of put it together, and then it's like, okay, that's the storytelling process.
Yes.
And as an evolution of that for me had never been really more evident than in working on this project.
It's rewarding, really.
Very
It's
much.
like, seeing the final outcome after all that work that you guys put in, it's just rewarding and just like being able to see it and all. Wait, Lynn, have you seen it yet?
I saw the final edit that I provided. I have yet to see.
Why am I asking you that? I don't know why I'm asking you that. I'm so sorry, Lynn.
I hope I've seen it. I edited like this, so it's,
yeah, you are the director. Yeah. So basically, you directed and edited.
Yes.
And edited
There's
the whole thing. Okay.
There's a few things that Taggart jumped in on as well, but there was a lot of the posts that I ended up doing as well. So.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, awesome, cool. And sorry about that, but
No.
yeah. So are you simply satisfied with the overall?
As a first effort, I think I'll give myself a check. You know what I mean? That's good to go. And I hope that it is acceptable for
I agree.
Kathy. I always am the kind of person, I learn about 200 things from, just every evolution I'm involved with. And I go back and kind of check myself and rethink things. And there's a bunch of things I would have done differently in the process.
Yeah.
But as far as, the first time having done it, I certainly happy the ship stayed afloat, I think. So I hope.
For sure. Saying that, like, just learning that was your first time, I did not realize that. So just knowing that was your first time doing that, I think you did an amazing and splendid job, to be honest.
I had done a music video that never got done a couple of years before, and but this by far and away the first legitimate film, and certainly the biggest project I've done. So.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the world to see it. I'm so excited. I think I just saw it for the first time a month ago. So I was really excited watching it. But what else do you do as a creative, Lynn? Can you like tell the audience a little bit more about yourself as a creative besides
Certainly.
like, you getting into the directing? Because I know you mentioned like acting before, but like what else do you do, even personally? Like it doesn't even have to deal with the industry.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm fortunate enough to have been a screenplay reviewer for the past 2 years, and I work for a company I subcontract to a company just part time that's out in Los Angeles, and I read screenplays. So on average, I read. I think I figured out the other day. Somebody asked me. I think I read on average around 3 to 4 screenplays per week that vary. Most of them are TV pilots, many of them are features, and then if I'm reading shorts, then I'm able to do more than that, certainly. But some weeks I won't read any. Some weeks I'll read like 8 or 9, which is nuts, you know. And when I review them, I then write up a 1 to 2 page summary of what works and what didn't work from a critical analysis of the screenplay standpoint. So I've been doing that. I have my own company now. I call that's the Screenplay Pre-Coverage Evaluation Company. That is where I review drafts by first-time authors before they try to send them off to coverage or to festivals or anything like that, hoping to help them kind of avoid big mistakes that are made frequently in a lot of stuff that I read otherwise. In addition to that, I'm starting to look at independently producing shorts toward basically documentary type shorts here locally, and I'm just starting to get the ball rolling on that. That's haven't quite cracked the code on that one yet, but in addition to those things, I also write my own stuff. I've submitted things before and done like the virtual pitch type thing, but never the written pitch I've been able to do. And then I'm also involved in music whenever I can get a chance to be involved in that. So I've done some music mixing and whatnot. I think on my IMDb page, it actually says composer, which
Oh, wow.
that is not exactly accurate. I produce music,
Yeah.
but in terms of like the composition and whatnot, that's I feel that the term composer is too generous of a term for what I do. I envision composer is like classical, that sort of thing. I basically produce electronic or rock music whenever I possibly can.
That's so cool. That's so cool. That's so cool.
So,
And you have like so many different talents that you do clearly, and that keeps you up. So do you have like anything that you like the most out of all of your talents? Do you have like one thing that you like enjoy to do the most?
just purely thinking about things that make good stories, what is, I love obscure bits of history that could potentially be worked into a good story, a good compelling story. It's kind of something that might not necessarily be, a big ticket item like the Battle of Midway or something. And there've been a couple of films made about that, certainly, but if there's one particular event in history, for example, that was just kind of an interesting thing. I love to anchor on things like that, and I'd love to learn about things like that. I would love to have the ultimate capacity to put those things into motion as a visual story, but while focusing on the character, the hero's journey.
Yeah.
The thing that we talked about earlier with regard to the character of Louis that Eli played, that character. What I love how just that character was universal and
Yes.
universally appealing. And when you have that type of character in an obscure bit of history, I think I love that kind of mesh, and I think that's something that I would love to be able to explore further.
Love it, love it, love it. So Kathy, tell us about you in terms of like, where do you see yourself at in terms of like working in the industry? Because I know you're more of behind the scenes.
Yeah, after Intrusion, um, I've worked on a couple of my own short films
Hmm.
with, some new people, some of the same people from Intrusion. And at this point now, I'm ready to I've done production. I found that one of the things that you really have to be in film is flexible. It could be very frustrating when you set things up and they don't work. But when you're an independent filmmaker and you don't have a lot of money, and people are working you for free, you just have to do it as it comes. And
Yeah.
so I've been there, done that. And I, what I really like to do now is I've written some short stories.
Hmm.
Um, I've never taken like a creative writing class or anything, but I've really enjoyed doing that. Um, so I'm also behind the scenes as far as like reviewing things that we're doing, um, looking at scripts. I'm learning to be like a script editor, and just pointing out things that like you need to fix
Hmm.
this, that didn't make sense, that kind of thing. But that's just a second pair of eyes, and I really enjoy doing that.
You're really good at that.
Well, thank you. um, and I still work outside full time, so this is weekends mostly for me, because at
Hmm.
night, to be honest, I'm exhausted when I get home from work. But I do what I can. And so I love everything that we're doing now. We have our ELIME company, and it is just starting to really take off, and it's very exciting. I'm very excited to be a part of it. And of course, we're working on your project, Mark, of Shed. And that is one where I have definitely decided to step back. You guys go. I'll be there when you need me. But I told him it's mostly night shooting. Yeah, I can't do that anymore. I will say though that my very first set was on one with um, Wages of Sin,
Okay.
and it is still, for me, even if I'm not doing anything, it's still exhilarating just to be on the set, to watch the
Hmm.
process, to watch the actors, to watch the lighting, to watch the directing. It is still something I thoroughly enjoy. And as I said, it's really like I could go to a set, even on Intrusion, and be exhausted. The minute I hit that set, I was awake. I was ready to go. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Been there. I agree. I agree. It's just so fun just seeing everything come together. Like even if like I'm not involved on the screen of a project, I'm so excited to even just be on the set of a project. And
Hmm.
I know you both agree to that. But
Hmm.
back to you, Lynn. If you could change anything in terms of like your career in the industry, what would you do? Would you change anything?
It's funny that you asked that. I'm getting a little unstable internet connection, so I hope I don't cut out on here. There, it
Okay, I see.
looks all right.
Okay.
But I think that's on my end. Sometimes it just goes out to
Yeah.
lunch for a little bit. But oddly enough, I think about a week and a half ago, I had kind of one of these revelatory moments, this epiphany type of thing and that is, I mentioned earlier that, I'm starting to look at the documentary, like a possibility of doing some documentary type work here.
Yeah.
I was fortunate a couple of years ago to be bumped up from being a featured extra to being in the cast of The Mule, the Clint Eastwood film that was shot here.
Oh,
And if you
wow.
see The Mule, I'm the pastor who delivers the eulogy in that
Oh,
film, right?
that's funny. I was an
Yeah.
extra actually in the mule, Lynn. I
Oh,
was in the
excellent.
yeah, I was in the bride the groom's party, something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Something like that.
No
But
kidding.
that's cool though. But I think I remember like thinking about it now. That's so cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that about like looking at films of Clint Eastwood, which I'm a fan of for many years, obviously, but I think about something like Gran Torino or something like that, where I heard somebody say, well, he's making the films, he wants to make, he's doing the things that he wants to do, the projects he wants to do, and he's just telling a story. And I don't know who said that. I don't know how accurate that is. I'm not trying to misrepresent what he's doing or anything like that. I'm sure that he is doing the stuff that he wants to do. But, the thought occurred to me about a week and a half ago. It's like, wait a minute, do the projects you want to do. I'm working at a very low budget, working at right now, I'm at almost no budget, but it's not impossible. And it's not, I think, impossible to go and make the stories that you want to make, tell the stories you want to tell. And that was kind of a revelation for me, I think, a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago or something. I've been reading screenplays for the past 2 years. I've read a couple hundred screenplays, in that time. And I've learned a lot about the craft. I've been studying some acting, I'm actually doing improv, as well, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it is, for me, it's just a matter of, reaching and going for telling the story. So that's a relatively new, approach that rather than just trying to, where can I fit in? Now instead of it's a where can I fit in, it's what am I going to do? And that's the approach that I'm taking. And I could be sailing my ship over the waterfall, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. But that's, I'm figuring out a little bit about navigating by the stars now to go to that nautical analogy. And I hope that makes sense, but it's more of a function now of what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing.
Could I ask Len a quick question?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Len, in the couple of hundred screenplays that you've reviewed, how many, like, quote unquote, new ideas are we getting? You know what I mean? It's like sometimes it's just rehash. It's like, how do you do a new slasher film so it's different,
I think that's a really interesting question. There have been, I think I've read around 250 to 260, somewhere in there. I can't remember. It's around that number anyway. With looking at that, like, okay, so my shoot from the hip answer is that roughly 10% of those are kind of where it's like, okay, these are really cool. You know what I mean? And I that's not to say that the rest aren't, but I'd say probably the top 50 to 60% seems like it's stuff that, okay, this has like all of the guts, so to speak, of stuff that I think, they're kind of going in the right direction. Does that mean they're ready to be shot? No. That just means that it's like, okay, this has all of the right pieces in place, but it still needs a lot of refining, a lot of revisions and that sort of stuff. And the biggest problem that I feel like I see is perhaps a misunderstanding or misexecution of what the character arc is supposed to be. The protagonist's arc, and the protagonist frequently is unrelatable in a lot of these stories. Writers have this idea of a character who's just this, great person or whatever, and which is cool, and you want them to ultimately be that way, but they have to get there, and the story is about the evolution of that person to that person you want them to be. But for example, right? But the original stuff, there have been a few stories that the way they were written, the scene breaks and the descriptions lent themselves very well to a visual medium that would tell the character's progression, in kind of a different way. And it's kind of tough to quantify that, but I think that the character's point of view, that the protagonist's point of view was very evident, is very present in the way that the story was written. You know, here's a character perhaps who has been the victim of abuse, for example, for years. And that is very strong in her presence in the story. You know, here's a character who has always questioned, you know, their sexuality or their approach to sex, their approach to sexuality as a healthy person. You know, and that's presented in a very compelling and very strong point of view. They have a very strong starting point from their point of view. And that's, to me, what really stands out as I think about the stories that I've read. I think I answered that in a very butchered way. Sorry about that.
No, that was really.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It was really
I'm sorry, I'm
interesting.
trashing this.
No.
No,
That's
that's
really,
how I explain stuff. Trust me, Len. That was nothing compared to the way how I explain stuff. I'm always everywhere. I'm just like, no, I understood what you were saying, because when I explain things, usually I'm like here.
Yeah.
But actually, I forgot to ask you guys, how long did it take for you guys to shoot Intrusion? Do you remember how many, like the time span? Or?
We started. We got together and we did a number of meetings, you know, kind of as warm up, and then we had a bunch of stuff to kind of sort out. I think we started meeting in December or January of 2017, 2018, and then, I don't think we actually started shooting until like the end of February or something. Does that sound right, Kathy?
that sounds right.
Okay. And then we got going, and we were going pretty steadily, and then we had a few things that we just couldn't get, and like the pharmacy was one, was out in another town. We had to go over to Warrenton, and then
Right.
There were a few things where we just, like, actor availability, and I think the final shot was late July or something like that, early August or something. And
That seems right. That was in those last couple of shots were in the front yard. Yeah, I remember we're only shooting, for the most part, we're only shooting on the weekends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think we did sometimes maybe shoot during the week in the evening, but that was not frequent.
Very rare.
Very rare.
I feel like we got most everything done just kind of on the weekends in, you know, like May or something like that. But then it was like the last things that we had to get. It's like, oh my God, we need to go over here and get this. So we need to wait for the availability of this to get that. And so that, like, dragged things out, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Right. Longer than like a Hollywood feature film, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it all turned out well, so it was worth it, in my opinion. So closing out, can you guys give us, the audience, some inspirational, like, quotes or like sayings? Like, what comes to mind in your heads when it comes to, like, just giving them some advice on, like, keeping it pushing? I just kind of put that on the spot for you
mine
guys.
is just going to be, you have got to be flexible. If someone doesn't show up, you have to know, is there a backup, or do I have to reschedule? And if I do, how am I going to do that? Always be ready for everything to go wrong. Murphy's Law. And it doesn't mean it will. Of course, it doesn't mean it will. We had times when everything just went exactly as planned, and we had other times when they didn't. So mine is just that it's okay if that day doesn't work out. It's okay. Just keep on going.
Love it. How about you, Len?
That is such a good point that I felt was flexibility is a key to success, for sure. I think one thing that helped was, I think we all get along pretty well, you know, and I again feel fortunate that they were able to welcome me in, you know. But the on the set, whenever we're working together, I think one thing that really worked pretty well was just, you know, kind of putting everything, leaving everything that wasn't supposed to be on the set off the set, you know, like be professional, you show up and we're ready to work, we're ready to do this stuff. And, you know, I was just happy to be able to be in an environment where that was prioritized. And so that worked well. And then the other thing that I was thinking of is determination, just have in your mind that you're going to complete this and you're going to do it. And, you know, we had a long time, we had a lot of time between, you know, shoot dates, you know, and we might have had to go to get, might have taken a couple of hours to get a shot that lasted 30 seconds or 20 seconds, or a scene that lasted 20 seconds or something like that. And just determination to accomplish it and to get it done. So
let me add one more thing. Is always make sure your actors are okay. Sometimes you do some pretty intense things, and we had a very intense scene we shot towards the end of shooting. Always make sure your actors are okay, because they really get into that role. It's very tense for them. So just be with them, be there for them if they need to, like, you know, talk about it or just decompress from what they've just done.
Very, very, very important. Holy smokes. Couldn't agree more. I'm so glad you said that.
Me too.
That is, so glad you said that.
Me too, Kathy. Like, no, oh my gosh. I think so many creatives and like actors needed to hear that. And me being like an actor, that's something that's very true. You know, I know how it is. Like, sometimes when you're like, you know, acting in a role, you're really trying to be that person. You're trying to take on that character. You know, you're not yourself. And sometimes you have dark roles, and, you know, you may have to like go to a certain place to be that person. And sometimes, like, you know, I've heard stories about certain actors who would have to seek therapy, you know, after playing certain roles. So that's why, thank you so much for commenting on that, Kathy. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys for interviewing with us today. I'm so excited about Intrusion, for the world to see it. It's coming out soon. Len, you did the thing. You did the thing. You did it. And
Yes, you
Kathy,
did.
of course, I know like everything that you've done as well behind the scenes. Like, thank you as well. You always, like, you know, keep us together intact in your own way, and I love that about you. And the whole team, everybody did well. And I'm really proud of this film, the message, what you guys conveyed, and it's going to be receptive very well.
It was a wonderful experience, and I agree.
Okay.
Yes, 100%. Yep.
All right. And well, until the next time, we just want to say keep creating.
Amen to that.
Thank you. You
All right,
too.
guys.
Take care.